These are the Minecraft farlands. We're all familiar with this, but what you may not know is that a select few have actually travelled here. But just how far is it? Well, to put it this way, the first player to attempt to travel there began 12 years ago, and is still going. So how did they do it? And what is the fastest legitimate way of travelling to the farlands? Why does Minecraft get super buggy as you get close to the farlands? And are the farlands really the end of Minecraft itself? To answer these questions, we'll need to go back to where it all began. The farlands are a result of a terrain generation phenomenon that occurred in earlier versions of Minecraft. Characterized by distorted and chaotic landscapes, they generated extremely far from the world origin, at precisely 12.5 million blocks away, hence where they got their name. But why does Minecraft's terrain break down at this seemingly arbitrary number? Well, it's actually a mathematical limitation of the game's terrain generator. You see, Minecraft uses what is known as Perlin noise to generate terrain, a noise function that produces random numbers in a seemingly natural way. A purely random number generator would produce extremely unnatural terrain, unlike Perlin noise, which is able to mimic terrain we would see in the real world. Now, Minecraft uses a value of 171.103 per block for Perlin noise, which means for every block you travel from the origin, the value of Perlin noise increases by 171. Multiplying this value by the distance of the farlands actually gives us the 32 per integer limit, or this number you see right here. So because the value of Perlin noise reaches this limit at exactly 12.5 million blocks, there are no more bits available to calculate any further values for Perlin noise, and as such the noise function completely breaks, breaking Minecraft's terrain as we know it. So now we know why the farlands existed, but when did they first appear? Well, technically the farlands were present in dev versions of the game. Yes, in-dev versions of the game. However, they were impossible to reach as the world became invisible at 2,300 blocks away from spawn, and non-solid halfway to the farlands. The Perlin noise value in this version was only 64, which actually brought the theoretical farlands distance to 33.5 million. The first version in which the farlands could actually be reached was InfDev, and they were also found at the closer 12 million blocks due to the increase in Perlin noise value. Now, when I say reached, that is if someone was willing to spend the insane amount of time it would take to walk there. We'll come back to this shortly. Of course, players could and would use third-party cheats to teleport themselves there. Later in beta version 1.8, Minecraft's noise and terrain generation would be altered again, removing overflow that occurred at the 32-bit limit, and hence the farlands as we know it. The world boundary would now be 32 million blocks, and the game would simply crash if you went past it. But now that you know why the farlands actually generate and a bit about their history, let's get into why you clicked on this video, traveling there. So you want to travel to the farlands? Here's how you do it. Let's first assume you want to travel there in InfDev or the early alpha versions of the game, as the Nether was not yet added in these versions. The primary and most obvious form of transport available to you, walking. Remember, sprinting had not yet been implemented into Minecraft. Now, in these versions of the game, you only need to eat food if you take damage, which means you can focus more of your efforts on walking. Yay for you. In Minecraft, the player can walk at 4.317 meters per second. So with the farlands being 12,550,821 meters from spawn, it would take you roughly 2,907 seconds before you arrive there. That's 48,455 minutes, 807 hours, or 33.64 days of just walking. It's also approximately 2.9 million times longer than subscribing to this channel. See what I did there? Anyway, to put that into perspective, I just made a video about the longest Let's Play in Minecraft history, with 1,795 episodes, which totaled only around 36,000 minutes of playtime, compared to the 48,000 it would take to get to the farlands. So yeah, your journey to the farlands certainly won't be a breeze. But hold on just a second, because we're assuming here that you're walking on a flat surface for your whole journey. Don't run into a single obstacle and never even stop once. Practically speaking, you will need to sleep to avoid mobs, eat occasionally as you're bound to take damage at some point, and will need to collect resources every now and then. And of course, the terrain won't simply be flat, with obstacles such as hills and trees impeding on your travel. Even if you were extremely efficient, these items would probably add at least 15% to your travel time, meaning your journey to the farlands would take 928 hours at the bare minimum. Right now you're probably thinking you can massively speed up your journey if you go through the Nether, which was implemented in the later alpha version of the game. And while this is technically true, you really would need to get to the top of the Nether roof, which is impossible without using glitches, and traversing the Nether regularly presents many challenges, namely massive lava lakes and the risk of being shot by a ghast, which not only increases travel time but also the risk of death. And if you die in the Nether, it's all over, as you cannot sleep to reset your spawn point, which really means the only option is to get close to the Nether roof and mine a 2x1 tunnel all the way to the far lands. The reason it has to be close to the Nether roof is so you don't run into lava balls. Now, to reach the far lands you would need to travel 1,568,000 blocks in the Nether, as 1 block in the Nether equals 8 in the overworld, meaning you would need to mine a total of 3.137 million netherrack. Not only would this be painstakingly boring, but it would still take a very long time. An unenchanted diamond pickaxe, as enchants do not exist here, can mine 1 netherrack in 0.1 seconds. To mine 3.137 million netherrack, it would take you 313,770 seconds, 5,229 minutes, or 87 hours. Now, maybe you're thinking, now we're talking, that doesn't seem so bad, 87 hours. Well, hold on a second, my friend, because on your journey you would need a total of 2,009 diamond pickaxes, requiring a total of 6,026 diamonds. And oh yeah, you can only hold 36 at any given time, meaning you would constantly need to take breaks from mining to go collect diamonds to create more pickaxes. So now we can see just how absurd this option really is. So we are really only left with one: walking to the far lands by foot in the overworld, 807 hours of just walking. No one would be crazy enough to attempt that, right? The date was March 6, 2011, and a player who goes by the name of Kurt J. Mack uploads a video to YouTube, which would later be renamed Firelands or Bust, Episode 1. This was originally intended to be your regular Minecraft Let's Play, until Episode 3, where the idea of walking to the Firelands was first planted in Kurt's mind.
There's no borders or ends to the maps. I think there are technically limits, but it's like 5 times if you were to walk around the actual Earth in real life, so that would be interesting.
Now, he would mention in this episode that the further away from the spawn point you get, the buggier the game begins to be. Let's touch on this for a second. The most well-known bug that occurs as you get closer to the Farlands is the world rendering precision loss bug, also known as the Farlands jitter. This actually isn't a result of the Farlands themselves, but occurs at extremely far distances, so it is commonly associated with them. The bug causes player movement to become very jittery, as the game is forcing the player to be at the edges and corners of blocks at all times. The same also applies to entities. Some very weird stuff also happens if you attempt to mine blocks at the Farlands. Moving on. In episode 11, as Kurt watches the sun rise atop his wooden cabin on a cool winter's morning, he begins his insane journey to Minecraft's Farlands. He wouldn't show his coordinates in each episode, however, but rather when reaching donation goals with his streams, as he was raising money for charity. Every time a goal is reached, he would click F3 to reveal his coordinates, and see just how far he has travelled. These would be known as F3 monuments, and there would usually be a long time in between each. Kurt would be the first player to ever attempt to travel to the Farlands, but just how fast was he travelling? Kurt's second reveal was on September 1st, 2012, after about a year and a half since beginning the series, which revealed he had travelled 699,000 blocks to date. Even at that distance, a mere 5.57% of the way to the Farlands, Kurt had already begun experiencing the Farlands jitter. But hold on just a second. Kurt travelled approximately 700,000 blocks in 566 days, meaning he was travelling at a rate of only 1,236 blocks per day. Surely someone could do it faster and beat Kurt to these mysterious lands. The date is now September 8th, 2019, and Kurt has now travelled just over 3.8 million blocks, or almost 31% of the way to the Farlands. But continuing at this rate means he would take another 16 years to reach the Farlands, finally arriving in September 2035. Well, it was on this day that another player would begin his journey. That player was Kilo Crazy Man. Kilo Crazy Man originally intended to reach the Farlands in around a year and a half. However, in April 2020, 7 months into his journey, he had a problem. Another adventurer by the name of Scenic would begin his journey to the Farlands, and in his own words, as an unemployed quarantine teenager, what's to lose? I'll let you answer that question. After only 14 days of travelling, Scenic had walked 1.3 million blocks, more than Kurt J. Mack had walked in a whole year, and he was closing the gap on Kilo Crazy Man. Scenic was averaging around 100,000 blocks per day, while Kilo Crazy Man was only travelling 35,000. Quick thank you to Ant Venom for that info, as Kilo Crazy Man has removed all streams and videos from his journey from his channel. A mere 18 days later, Scenic had already reached 2.5 million blocks, and was on track to reach the Farlands in just 80 days. This would have annihilated Kilo Crazy Man causing all his time and effort to go to waste. Think about it, you spend every day walking to the Farlands for months on end and then someone beats you to it. It would have been devastating. There's another YouTuber who already overtook Kurt. I'll comment it in a stream, referring to Killer Crazy Man. Scenic replies, yeah I know, we'll beat him though. Commenter replies, don't be so sure. Not wanting to suffer a devastating defeat, Killer Crazy Man upped his pace. He had originally aimed to reach the Farlands in March 2021, but he was now closing in on his destination in June of 2020. Then on June 19th, 2020, Killer Crazy Man reaches the Farlands, becoming the first person to do so, cementing his name in Minecraft history.
Yeah, dude! Look at that! Look at that.
But what happened to Scenic? His last stream before Killer Crazy Man finished his journey was on May 21st, 2020, reaching 2.8 million blocks. Maybe he was deterred by Killer's newfound motivation. But would Scenic be the second player to reach the Farlands? Well, it seems that another player by the name of Equal had actually been travelling there since October 2019, and by November of 2020, he was most of the way there. Oftentimes, it takes someone to achieve something once thought impossible before others begin to achieve the same feat. People thought the journey to the Farlands was so long it was simply not doable, and now people are completing it in a matter of months. Equal was streaming the whole thing as well, and his streams averaged an incredible 10 hours long, almost every single day. He would then reach the Farlands on the 20th of January 2021, becoming the second person to ever walk the astonishing distance in survival mode. There is some controversy surrounding this attempt, however, as it is believed Equal possibly spawned in items such as full diamond armor, tools, and other resources before his journey began, as he did not show himself gathering these items on camera. Regardless, I think the most impressive feat about traveling to the Farlands is the time it takes to walk there, so I'd still consider Equal the second person to legitimately travel there. Now, Scenic would mostly give up on his journey to the Farlands, and perhaps he found an answer to his question. As an unemployed quarantine teenager, what's to lose? But that would give rise to yet another contender who wanted to take on the epic journey. However, this contender had something a bit different in mind. Now this player didn't want to just be the third to the Farlands. After all, being the third isn't all that impressive. No, he wanted to achieve a feat that was even greater than Killer Crazy Man himself, to reach a destination that had never been seen with the eyes of a Minecrafter before. On October 3rd, 2020, a player by the name of Figanometry set out on his journey to walk to the Corner Farland, a much greater distance than just the Edge Farlands. A bit of Pythagoras' theorem would tell us that the distance to the Corner Farlands is 17.7 million blocks. Traveling at Minecraft walking speed, that would take 68,525 minutes, 11,042 hours, or 48 days. A much longer journey than Killer Crazy Man and Equal. Like the others, Figanometry would livestream the whole thing, uploading his livestreams to YouTube. He would reach the Corner Farlands on his 320th livestream, which each went for around 5 hours, in June 2021. He would later livestream himself walking to the world border, 30 million blocks out, but that's such an incredible feat, it deserves its own video. Now that leaves just one more contender that completed a feat which makes simply walking to the Farlands pale in comparison, a piece of cake if you will. But what exactly could be more impressive than walking to the Farlands themselves? But before that, why would someone want to travel to the Farlands in the first place? After all, you could just teleport there using mods, and it's just a location where Minecraft's terrain breaks down. There is really no point in going there, other than to say that you did it. But people often set arbitrary goals, for no other reason than accomplishing that goal. Maybe you have a goal to do 100 juggles with a soccer ball, build a house of cards, or to do a handstand. These goals make no real contribution to our work or change our life in the grand scheme of things, but we still want them. We are driven to achieve these feats that to many others seem almost meaningless. And for a handful of us, myself not included, that goal is walking to the Farlands in Minecraft survival. Anyway, now onto the player who had a loftier goal than even that. This player would reach the Farlands in November 2021, after just 8 months of walking, but this was just the beginning of his journey. Directly after reaching the Farlands, the player known as Mystical Midget would begin collecting resources for a new journey. He built up to the flat area on top of the Farlands and began walking. His new journey was a further 20 million blocks, to the theoretical 32 million block Minecraft world limit. Yes, you heard that right. He intended on traveling another 20 million blocks, which would take another 1,287 hours of travel time. Then on September 1st, 2022, after 10 further months of walking, he would reach it. The end of Minecraft itself, the point at which the solid world as we know it ceases to exist. Upon reaching Minecraft's limit, he fell straight through the world, dying to the void. Perhaps perhaps the only way a player can legitimately die from the void in this version of the game. He became the first and only person to ever reach this point in Minecraft. 86 days of pure walking. Insane. And he didn't even stop there, venturing to the corner Farlands from the edge Farlands after that. The journey is currently ongoing and he has travelled about a third of the distance. There have been 4 documented cases of players reaching the Farlands, all in around a year. Sorry Kurt. But who did it fastest? Let's begin with the first player to arrive there, Killer Crazy Man. He began his journey in September 2019 and arrived in June 2020, taking him 10 months to reach the Farlands. Equal, the second player to reach the Farlands, who began his journey in October 2019, took a little bit longer, around a year and 2 months. Figanometry took just 9 months to reach the corner Farlands, an even greater distance. And finally, Mystical Midget has the record for the fastest time to ever reach the Farlands, at just over 8 months. Many players have since attempted to travel there, but most have either given up or not walked very far. The Farlands sure are a captivating place, and for some, a place they have to see to believe. Despite being at its core a bug that was never intended to be in the game, and the place where Minecraft's terrain stops working, they have gained some insane popularity. I wonder, what if Kurt J. Mack had just made a regular Minecraft Let's Play, never deciding to journey to the Farlands? Would anyone else have tried? What if Scenic hadn't challenged Killer Crazy Man, causing him to up his pace? Would he have given up? And what if Notch fixed the issue with terrain generation, and the Farlands never existed at all? Thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed, maybe consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.